Hello, I'm Mark Orwell for Highbrow Magazine, and I've got a story for you. James Bond is in the news again. In February, Amazon MGM assumed creative control from Eon Productions, marking the first such change in 60 years. In March, the studio brought on two veteran producers, and in June hired director Denis Villeneuve, who directed Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, Dune, and many other films, to helm the next Bond film. A significant hole to fill, of course, is an actor to play the martini-sipping secret agent. Daniel Craig, who performed the super spy role in 5 movies, retired after shooting the latest in the saga, No Time to Die, in 2021. The smart money says the next Bond will be, as expected, British, young enough to play Bond for the next 15 years, and a man. And possibly a person of color. In the meantime, Bond fans can hold on to the past, and there's no better place to do so, surprisingly, than a far corner of Austria, deep in an out-of-the-way pocket of the Alps, in the scenic town of Sölden. Sölden and the surrounding Ötztal Valley lie some 50 miles south of Innsbruck in Austria's southwestern Alps, not far from the Italian border. The Bond cast and crew came here in 2015 to film Spectre, starring Daniel Craig and directed by Sam Mendes. The production team was drawn by the spectacular scenery of the valley and its surrounding peaks. The settings ranged from snow-clad Alps to narrow, winding canyons, from church-steepled villages to modernistic architecture at 10,000 feet high. As it turned out, the Ötztal was ideal to film nerve-wracking chases, a staple of the Bond films. And so I found myself in Gemütlichkeit, Austria, to see for myself. All about me, as I rode the ski gondola to its thin-air terminus, were sights emblematic of the Alps. Imposing mountains rose precipitously on either side of the long, flat valley floor. Photo-worthy villages were each centered on the tall spires of the local churches, inevitably Roman Catholic, Austria's dominant religion. Flower-filled balconies brightened the facades of chalets. 2-lane roads past emerald meadows full of belled cows and made S-turns up narrow mountain passes. You could hardly find a place more camera-ready. I had watched Spectre before traveling to the Ötztal. I immediately recognized the gondola's mid-mountain station, where Bond's colleague, the Gadget Master Q, played by Ben Whishaw, the youngest actor ever to fill that role, was spotted by the bad guys and managed to dodge them at the last minute. At the 10,000-foot summit of the mountain, Geislachkogel, was a stunning, glass-encased, cubist-inspired restaurant called Ice Q, or, as Bond fans would recognize, the stand-in for the Hoffler Clinic in Spectre, where Daniel Craig filmed several crucial and deadly scenes. As if that weren't enough of a Bond connection, adjacent to the restaurant is 007 Elements, a James Bond cinematic installation. The attraction, which celebrates the entire James Bond opus, with an emphasis on Spectre, opened in 2018 with a rotating exhibition of props, costumes, and film compilations, emphasizing everything from Bond's arch-enemies to the franchise's exotic film sites around the world, including the mountaintop on which I stood. As you might expect from any self-respecting building in a Bond film, 007 Elements is buried some 25 feet deep into the mountain peak. Guests are advised to wear a warm jacket. Purposely, there is no heat in the structure to avoid damaging the permafrost under which the installation operates. I entered the building into the barrel of the gun, a long, dark, narrow space at the back of which was a wall-sized screen showing a filmed montage of title sequences backed by stirring Bond theme music, played as loudly as music in any disco. A docent entered the room and directed the guests onto a broad outdoor viewing platform, the plaza, where the full magnificence of the surrounding mountains was breathtaking. The thin air at that elevation may have been a contributing factor to the general breathlessness. Back inside, director Sam Mendes explained, on film, the installation's genesis and the history of the James Bond franchise, from Dr. No to Spectre. Only one other Bond film has been produced since Spectre, as I mentioned, 2021's No Time to Die. Following Mendes's intro, we walked into another space, the Lair, a tribute to the dozens of frightening henchmen, tough guys, and flat-out rotters for which the films are famous. As images of Oddjob, Jaws, and Ernst Stavro Blofeld swirled around us in a cornucopia of on-screen villainy, my guide turned to me and whispered with undisguised glee, "This is my favorite gallery." Other displays focus on special effects, props, exotic filming locales, weapons, and the Austrian chase scene in Spectre. My favorite room was Action Hall, dominated by the front half of a plane flown by Bond that seemingly has been frozen in time in the midst of exploding. After having spent the morning traveling to the village of Solden, riding up the long gondola, and touring 007 Elements, I was starving. Thankfully, one of the most unusual restaurants I've ever seen was only steps away from the Bond exhibit, Ice Cube. This is no top-of-the-mountain brats and beer ski bum eatery. The gourmet restaurant has two toques from Gaumillon. The glass-encased landmark is cantilevered, almost frighteningly so, at the edge of the mountain. Ice Cube looks either like a cubist painting or a gigantic glass cash register with the cash drawer accidentally left open, depending on your point of view. No matter your architectural leanings, though, you won't soon forget it. Ice Cube's menu is a modern take on traditional Alpine cuisine, with an emphasis on locally sourced ingredients. Our fish comes from nearby Langenfeld, restaurant manager Tobias Heim told me. We get all our other ingredients either regionally or at least from Austria. We even blend our own wine. If anything could outshine the food, it was the dining room's clean, almost Scandinavian light oak furnishings and decorative touches. But nothing could beat the alpine views from the floor-to-ceiling windows that gave onto the mountainous horizon and deep into the gorges on all sides. Views here are best in summer, Heim said. Clouds often obscure the vistas in the colder months. I had been staying at an Ötztal Valley resort called the Aquadome, a vast spa, sauna, and pool-intensive phenomenon that sits at one of the widest, most eye-pleasing sections of the valley. It occurred to me that the name of my resort would make an excellent title for the next Bond film, Aquadome. I headed straight for the rounded, artfully lighted lobby bar, where my favorite mixologist had just come on duty. "Sir?" she asked, polishing a rocks glass as I sat. I considered my options for about 3 seconds. "Vodka martini," I replied. Shaken, not stirred. When I was done savoring that beautiful drink, I dabbed my mouth with a napkin and crossed the lobby to the front desk, where I planned to book a massage at the spa. The desk clerk smiled. Yes, sir, of course, he said. A massage. And your name? In my best shaken martini voice, I said, Orwell. Mark Orwell. For Highbrow Magazine, I'm Mark Orwell.